Welcome to the Band Bibliophile. My name is Bailey and this is my March wrap-up. First up is Christian's pick for our monthly Spicy Sisters Club, also known as SSC, or we're still workshopping the name, thank you. All four of us have agreed to buddy read a romance book of each other's choosing. The saucier, the better. Christian chose him one of her favorite Achillean sports romances. Jamie has never been able to figure out how he lost his closest friend. 4 years ago, his wisecracking, rule-breaking roommate cut him off without an explanation. So what if things got a little weird the last night of hockey camp? It was just a little drunken foolishness. Ryan Wesley's biggest regret is coaxing his very straight friend into a bed that pushed the boundaries of their relationship. Now with their college team set to face off at the national championship, he'll finally get a chance to apologize. But all it takes is one look at his longtime crush and the ache is stronger than ever. Can one night of ooh la la ruin a friendship? If not, how about 6 more weeks of it? When Wesley turns up to coach alongside Jamie for one more hot summer at camp, Jamie has a few things to discover about his old friend and a big one to learn about himself. I wasn't too sure about this going into it, but I finished it feeling like it deserved 6 out of 5 stars. Praise. The first couple of chapters made me question the writing style and how easy it'd be to slip into the story, but I promise, if you write off the beginning bit, it's worth your time. I don't even like hockey. I could care less about sports, but that didn't end up bothering me at all. Now, I love all the sports. I'd describe him as an estranged friends to lovers romance, and I kept saying, hot damn, every 5 seconds. I was obsessed. It was honestly unhealthy and a little concerning, but this book shamelessly gave me life. What has him done to me? 9 times out of 10 spicy adult romances make me cringe. I'm grimacing at the smexy times, gagging over the dialogue, and wishing I could staple my eyes shut with every word I read. But I am learning. There are great romances out there. Clearly, I was reading the wrong ones. Christian showed me the light. Thank you. You're going to need a pool to jump in after reading him. Woo! The tension, the compatibility, the pining. Again, I say to you, hot damn! There's something about couples that comfort and reassure one another, and I think that's why the story worked so well for me. The emotional connection was there, and it matched their physical connection. They were of equal importance, and because neither one was neglected, I didn't feel the need to throw myself in front of a bus. Happy, happy day. The book was so delicious. This looks creepy, doesn't it? Yet I can't stop. There's this one scene in particular where... Anyway, it lives rent-free in my head next to the tentacle scene in Occupy My Heart, and now they can both vie for my attention. And let me just say, I'm not an emotional lady. Well, I'll start to cry in public if my feelings have been hurt, but I don't cry at books. I'm emotionally drained from my real life. But I sure came close to misty eyes when I read that closing scene with Jamie's family during the holidays. These authors worked some magic on me and got me too invested. As soon as I finished it, I seriously contemplated reading this book over again. And I would have, if Better Than the Movies wasn't due back at the library. Lynn Painter gets a lot of hype. Her books never sit on my library's shelves for long, and I wanted to know what all the fuss was about. And I get it now. I really do. Better Than the Movies is definitely one of my favorite books of the year, and I'm glad I finally joined the bandwagon. Daydreamer Liz gave her heart to Michael a long time ago, but her cool, aloof, forever crush never really saw her before she moved away. Now that he's back in town, Liz will do whatever it takes to get on his radar, even befriend Wes Bennett, her annoyingly attractive next-door neighbor. He might seem like the prime candidate for romantic comedy fantasies, but Wes has only been a pain in Liz's butt since they were kids. Pranks involving frogs and decapitated lawn gnomes do not a potential boyfriend make. Yet, Wes and Michael are hitting it off, which means Wes is Liz's in. As Liz and Wes scheme to get Liz noticed by Michael so she can have her magical prom moment, she's shocked to discover that she likes being around Wes. As they continue to grow closer, she must re-examine everything she thought she knew about love and rethink her own ideas of what happily ever after should look like. There's nothing I can say about this book that probably hasn't already been said before. It's ridiculously sweet and romantic, and if I could live out this romance myself, know that I would. But alas, I was fated with no boys next door in sight. Where are they? Oh yeah, instead I've got elderly men. Men who live solely for shooting their guns, and men with small children running around their yards. Ergo, my love life is doomed! Doomed, I tell ya! But that's okay, because I can live vicariously through fictional characters who will experience the thrills of true love for me. Second best thing, right? Better Than the Movies ticks all my boxes. I loved how Wes felt first and was so willing to see Liz be happy that he'd push his own feelings down, encouraging her to chase the happily ever after Liz thought she always wanted. Wes is ridiculously goofy and sarcastic, the dreamboat guy really, and I felt for him just as hard as everyone else who's read the book. If he was a real person, I'm just not sure I could take his ribbing. Some light teasing here and there is fine, but a relationship built on these jabs would drive me insane. In fact, I'd be liable to slap him. Or maybe even gut punch him. Hypothetically though, I will tolerate it. He's lucky he's considerate and that I keep my inner violence under lock and key. But in all seriousness, the things Wes ends up doing, how hard he tries to understand Liz, and the lengths he's willing to go to just to talk to the girl he loves are precious. Give this man an award, he knows how to do it right. Even though this is a romance novel first, there is so much heart and soul to it. It's an exploration of grief, the difficulties of opening yourself up to new experiences, and the realization that endings make room for new beginnings. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. Rather, you adapt and find new ways to keep the spirit of something or someone alive. Even though there were deep emotional moments, I mostly felt like I was wrapped in a warm blanket under a beautiful evening sky while reading this book. I'm not a girl that often kicks and squeals while reading romantic books, or watching rom-coms for that matter, but this one was dangerously close to tempting me to do those very things. How diabolical you all in! Downright diabolical! Next, I read The Girl in the Video, a horror novella deemed the Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he knows. I was hyped for this one. A couple of my favorite women in horror spoke highly of it, and the cover is to die for. Unfortunately, the story didn't hit as hard as I'd hoped, and that's okay. You win some and you lose some, right? My biggest roadblock was that I had a difficult time warming up to our protagonist, Freddie. He's not necessarily a bad guy, but I wasn't invested in him as a person. Instead, I was fascinated by the domino effect his choices had on those in his life, such as his wife and the child they're hoping to have. But I will say that reading this book made me feel violated, making it a highly effective novella. The Girl in the Video taught me that I don't have to like the main character to be horrified. It's competent writing that does that. So much of my world is on my phone and computer. It's how I document my life, stay in touch with friends and family, learn about current events, and generate a sense of joy through creating content like this. For someone to intrude upon places you think are safe is point blank unsettling. You're incapable of gauging how much they know about you or how driven they are to upend your life. What's their goal? What are they getting out of cyberstalking and terrorizing you? Since their presence is intangible, it feels like your antagonist could be anywhere at any time. For a safe space to become your absolute worst nightmare is a hideous turn of events, whether that's offline or online. I experienced so much anxiety observing Freddie spiral with dread as he navigated a digital age nightmare. When someone creates a social media account or goes onto the internet, they don't expect that signing away their emotional and mental health is part of the deal. Nevertheless, those are real threats that more and more people face. An innocent choice can have unexpected, devastating consequences. The Girl in the Video's best element was by far the girl wreaking havoc. There was almost a supernatural element to her and her influence that made me edgy. At first she seems harmless enough, but there's no doubt that her intentions are laced with malice. By the end, she's cutthroat, unpredictable, and seemingly omnipresent. The way she dominates Freddie's mind, pressuring him into feeling like his very existence is perilous, was a sight to behold. How can you gain freedom when the law can't help you and your tormentor is relentless? This ending made me numb. I never thought it would go where it did, and it broke my heart. 5 out of 5 stars for shock factor, but I wish I had more answers. Horror rarely ties things up with neat little bows, The Girl in the Video included, and I would appreciate deeper explanations. I crave closure, and no, I don't want to explore what that means psychologically about me. I'm trying to read at least one of Christian's cast-offs each month, which is basically a book she's unhauled and given me the chance to hoard, like the good raccoon I am. Shout out to the sisters of the world who indulge our whims. This month's pick was The Dragon of Innis, an inclusive fairy tale for all ages. Every time someone goes missing from the village, Sir Violet, the local knight, makes his way to the dragon's cave and negotiates the item's return. It's annoying, but at least the dragon is polite. But when the dragon is supposedly hoarding a person, that's a step too far. Sir Violet storms off to the mountainside to escort the baker home, only to find a more complex mystery, a quest that leads him far beyond the cave. Accompanied by the missing baker's wife and the dragon himself, the dutiful village knight embarks on his greatest adventure yet. This is a sweet, inclusive, thoughtful book that aims to bring a celebration of identity to well-worn fairy tale territory, which has historically lacked diversity. Not only does it aim to showcase a wonderfully queer cast, but it also implores the reader to accept themselves and those around them. Without a doubt, there was lovely representation and an inspiring message. But despite this book being rooted in supporting very human communities, the dragon easily stole the show for me. When people think of these mythical creatures, I don't believe it's uncommon to envision gnashing teeth, razor-sharp claws, flaming villages, and livestock being carried away. Not the most beautiful of pictures, that's for sure. It's rather alarming and likely why dragons get depicted as fearsome beasts that must be slain by knights. But Snap, our resident dragon, is truly amusing. He's got a sense of humor and a backstory that tugs at the good old heartstrings. Despite his very intentional mischief, you can't help but be drawn to him. He's desperately searching for connection, and since he can't find it among his own kind, he's willing to risk his safety to find it among humans. The connection between Snap and Sir Violet is drastically different than the traditional knight and dragon relationship, and I thought it was clever how their exchange is turned on its head. Even Sir Violet himself is dissimilar to stereotypical knights in the sense that he doesn't mind adventure for the most part, but he's terribly fond of returning home and curling up by the fire. I kept reading this story because of my love for this duo. In relation to this being called a story for all ages, I agree with that marketing. As an adult, I was drawn into the book, especially in the beginning and at the very end, but I felt my level of intrigue waning through the middle, which is where I think the younger audience appeal came more to the forefront maybe. Related to the book's desire to reach young readers, The Dragon of Innis is also very direct in its message. Some would even say heavy-handed. It clearly states, quote, "Sticking with the expectations people have formed about us since birth is not the key to happiness. If people are accepting, many problems can be solved," end quote. I love the sentiment, and I think this blunt tactic works for younger readers. Imparting messages of hope, belonging, and acceptance is clearly working towards a kinder, safer world, but I know a lot of adults prefer the story itself, whether that's through plot or character arcs, to represent the message. A cast demonstrating the crux of a lesson can feel more powerful than being spoon-fed, but I don't know if there is a way to pacify everyone when the age range is so vast. Just know this book is frank, and if you prefer subtlety, then this might not be the story for you. Personally, I don't see anything bad with bold sentiments, especially ones meant to be shared in a safe space like this book. Sometimes it's exactly what people need to hear. I wanted to keep the good vibes going after The Dragon of Innis, so I picked up My Sister the Cat Volume 1. It's a slice-of-life comedy in which a young man is adopted into a family of cats who walk, talk, and live like humans. Family life can be full of misunderstandings, even when you're all the same species, so just imagine what would happen if your little sister was a cat. This series is all about the charming complications in the lives of Nakota, his adorable sister Naneko, and their parents and friends. To put it succinctly, this manga is bizarre but mindlessly cute in a way that shoots you full of dopamine, and I'll take as much of that chemical messenger as I can get, thank you sir. Who needs to exercise, meditate, and eat well when you can get your dopamine hit just by reading about our feline friends? This is a pretty low-stress story where problems are easy to overcome, the solutions aren't too daunting, and the focus is on how charming Naneko is. She's a delight to read about, and I'm glad I took a chance on this series. I was honestly on the fence about it after not really enjoying Cat Plus Gamer. But I guess this plot was more my speed, and I thought the expressions were done exceptionally well. This isn't a life-changing book, but it's there to make you smile and find small joys in your day. That is a magic all its own, and I'm always happy when I can find stories like this one that brighten my mood. There weren't too many glaring issues with Volume 1 except for Nakota's friend. He's obsessed with the cat sister who is probably around kindergarten age if I remember correctly. He asks for cute pictures of her and dolls himself up when he gets to see Naneko at the family's house. It's a little creepy and uncomfortable how much that side plot is pushed, but I understand this is meant to be comedy. Uncomfortable comedy, but a shtick the creator has committed to. Even the MC acknowledges how people might misconstrue his friend's enthusiasm. So I think this is a very self-aware manga. Also, despite my interest in the story, I was confused the whole time. The synopsis clearly states that the MC is adopted into a family of cats who walk, talk, and live like humans. All of that's true with the exception of the talking part. Only the cat mother speaks. Her cat husband and child are nonverbal as far as I could tell, so I was clueless as to the rules of this fantastical world where humans and human-sized cats share space. Do only some of them speak the human language, or can they all speak it but some choose not to? Much like with other manga, I found myself just going with the flow even when the details were nonsensical. It's much easier that way. When I found the mysteries on sale at my local bookstore, I couldn't pass it up. This is a fable for grown-ups in which a long-ago kingdom is afflicted with unexplainable calamities. Hoping to end the torment, the king dispatches his knights to discover the source of the mysterious events. Years later, a single battered knight returns. Full transparency here, I've read this at least 3 times, trying and probably failing to grasp it in its entirety. It's not made for people like me, okay? Barely surviving on their last 3.5 brain cells. You need to possess intellect, the ability to discern what's written between the lines. 2 things I'm sure you have observed I am extremely lacking. Look into my eyes and tell me something is going on behind them. Yeah. You can't, can you? I'm inclined to say this is a story that explores the human desire to understand the unknown and conquer what scares us. Answers provide a sense of security, and the more secure we feel, the more emboldened we become to disregard the natural world. Courage lends itself to an overwhelming desire to take more than what is ours, as if we are kings and queens allowed to trample every square inch in the name of progress. What is wondrous or mysterious becomes boring and unworthy of our attention because we now have an inflated sense of power. But when we neglect the environment and think too highly of ourselves, there's hell to pay. We miss what's important and contribute to our own demise. Humans are but a blip on Earth's timeline. The mysteries will prevail long after we destroy ourselves. The mystery seems like a cautionary tale that shames people for overlooking the reverence our planet deserves. This fable is bleak for humans, but a triumph for the mysteries surrounding us. We must respect the unknown and act responsibly as we conquer the mysteries plaguing us. Otherwise, humanity will be wiped out and never heard from again. How cheerful and not at all a nerve-wracking sentiment. I'm not sweating, you're sweating. My buddy read with my sister found this month was Very Bad People, a dark academia YA thriller about Calliope, whose mother drove the family van into a lake with her 3 daughters inside of it 6 years ago. Their mom passed away, and the exact circumstances of the accident remain shrouded in mystery. At 16, Calliope transfers to Tipton Academy, the elite boarding school her mom attended. It's here that Calliope is invited to join Haunt and Rail, an exclusive secret society with legendary status on campus. The society fancies itself revolutionaries fighting for social justice, but when Haunt and Rail commits to exposing a dangerous person on campus, it becomes clear that some ghosts define justice differently than others. As the society's tactics escalate, Calliope uncovers a possible link between Haunt and Rail and her mother's deadly crash. I haven't had mixed feelings for a book in a long time, but this one seems to fall under that in-between category where there are elements I really loved and elements I detested in equal measure, leaving me with the overall impression of dissatisfaction. As I slowly devour more dark academia books, what I'm quickly coming to realize is that I'm a sucker for their settings. I love the architecture, the sense of isolated community, and the inevitable atmosphere that burrows beneath the skin. Throw it in a autumnal backdrop and I'm officially a goner. Very Bad People has all these things accompanied by a band of morally great characters who had me questioning my very own ethics. Not surprisingly, I couldn't keep everyone straight. There were 20 members in the secret society alone, plus the cast of non-society members. For someone who can't even recall the names of the 40-ish kids I graduated with, I knew quickly I was a goner. But we don't need to talk about my goldfish brain. Instead, let's focus on how I loved the short chapters that made this 400-plus page book fly by. I looked forward to reading more because I was constantly rewarded. There was also this nagging feeling that the pacing was slow. The biggest shocks and reveals were, of course, left until the end, making the journey seem longer than necessary. Plus, the payoff didn't feel worth it for me. I was just so mad at everything. Where Very Bad People shines, though, is in its parallels to and fascinations with fairy tales. Calliope's mother aspired to live like she was inhabiting a fairy tale, a princess searching for her prince, where true love won out, and the ending was labeled with a clear happily ever after. Yes, fairy tales can get dark, but there are often clear distinctions between right and wrong with good versus evil narratives. It's easy to pick out who deserves the title of villain and who deserves the honor of hero. There's a clear-cut answer as to who or what should prevail. Very Bad People explores the fact that fairy tales do not mirror reality. The fantasy is shattered when we realize life's battles are far more ambiguous than our bedtime stories led us to believe. We need context. We need critical thinking, because villains aren't so obvious, and neither are the steps a hero should take to end the antagonist's reign. I believe Kit was a genius in the way she explored this narrative. Is there more than one way a hero can triumph? Can victory be stolen when the proper channels fail the people? I personally was enamored with the question, can the hero become a villain or the villain a victim? The answers are messy and not easy to swallow, but these are questions that beg to be answered no matter how infuriating the resolution. I'm not going to lie, there are many unlikable characters featured in this cast, and my exasperation stemmed from continually being faced with corruption at the end. That's life though, people wear many masks, and as we get to know one another in more vivid detail, our rose-colored glasses shatter and reveal flaws, some of which are more forgivable than others. I will say that Very Bad People made me examine my moral compass. Something horrible happened to a character and I felt very staunch about where I stood, but then the author gave me more information afterward that got my gears turning. As creaky as that process might have been. Then the reader is faced with the question, wouldn't you do that for someone you love? And I was like, as long as I don't get caught. A story that can make my moral compass turn 180 degrees is powerful stuff. Finally, I read Prince of Lust. Alessandro senses his devotion to the monastery slipping away. Haunted by regret over the years he believes he squandered. Torn between duty and desire, he takes a daring step to confront his suppressed lust. Seeking a solution, he summons a supernatural being to assist him. But can he withstand the shame of abandoning his position and his faith to satiate his long-neglected desires? I actually bought this novella for Christian when it got released because I thought she might enjoy it and the cover was eye-catching. One day I told her I was looking for something spicy, and she handed The Prince of Lust to me. This is the type of book you need to read in one sitting. It's not a tall order, but it's difficult in my household, and I bet I picked this book up 4 or 5 times before I finished last page. And I think being unable to consume it from start to finish was damaging to my experience. Through no fault of the book, of course, it's all on me. I think Alessandro's backstory is compelling. He's given his entire life to his faith in the hopes God will take away his temptation, but his interest in men never wanes. Rather, it grows until it's insatiable, leading him on a journey to call forth a demon. His repressed desires and pining for the forbidden were well done. There is no doubt in my mind that this author can write. The character's arc was fabulous, but I quickly discovered that I was not into degradation. As soon as Alessandro's blood was mixing with other bodily fluids, getting a little queasy. His mounting lacerations from Asmodeus only made me more queasy. But hey, I'm a gal who literally almost passed out when I got a puncture wound and looked at it for 2 seconds. Christian loved this one though, and I would buy this for myself for the cover alone. If you think this is something you'd enjoy, I encourage you to give it a try. It's just not for the faint of heart. What are some of your reading wins and woes from March? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.